Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast. My name is Brandon Drum. I'm here with Parker Thune.
It's camp season, baby. We're wearing
Camps out,
cutoffs.
guns out, I guess is
I'm
what you
wearing a
got going
cutoff.
on.
Brandon's wearing a hoodie, as usual.
I'm wearing a hoodie because our house is freaking freezing right now. I don't understand it, but it is what it is.
Getting your money's worth with that AC, because it's been
guess so.
hot this week.
Yeah, no doubt. Also getting a tan. I've noticed I'm getting a pretty good tan going on here. I'm enjoying it. High in vitamin D. There's no insufficient vitamin D here, my friends. So when you're in the sun all day with those camps and the practices, that's what happens.
That's also your indigenous heritage coming through, isn't it?
Very true. Very true. Last name gives it away. All right. Man, it is camp season, and we'll discuss what's coming up on Thursday, which is a big camp for Oklahoma. Jaden O'Neal will be in town. Top 100 quarterback in the 2026 class will be in town. That's the number 2 visitor as far as who Oklahoma is recruiting. The third will be Jonas Williams. The other 4-star quarterback will be in the following week. And then we're going to talk, obviously, the SEC schedule. Love. Those that hate 11 a.m. kicks, welcome to the new league that treats you right. No more big noon kickoffs. Well, 2 of them, but not as many, not every week. And then obviously a big OV weekend with 5-star galore on campus. This is big weekend number 1 for Oklahoma. The 21st, this is huge. This weekend's huge. And the 21st makes it look like a little, you know what. So
they're slowly ramping up, aren't they?
They are
The
slowly
7th,
ramping up.
that was a decent
3,
OV
now
weekend.
we're gonna go with
14th
about
is going to be
10.
big. And
Yeah.
the Champ U barbecue, as always, is
Yes.
going to be huge.
Yes. So we're going to talk about all that, but first we're going to have to pay some bills, right, Parker?
We don't need to this week. We've got
We
that
don't have
taken care
ads
of.
this week. All right, we're just going to go right into it. The SEC released the media, or at least to the media today, the new schedule. Oklahoma only has two noon kicks, Parker. 2 or 11 a.m. kicks. 1 away, 1 home.
I think if you're an OU fan in general, over the last several years, you've become accustomed to 2 11 a.m. kicks by the end of non-conference play. Now you have 2 all season. Welcome to the big leagues, folks.
Not treated like garbage anymore. Not treated like the big dog. The weird part is that was the weirdest thing about the Big 12, right? And I know it had to do a lot with the contract with Fox, right? And they always wanted OU or Texas as like their marquee games, right? If it wasn't a Big 10 with Ohio State or Michigan, it was OU or Texas. Like that's what it was. And so getting away from that and having more of a variety, you got the SEC network, you got ABC, you got ESPN, 1, 2, and ESPNU, and then you got the ESPN Plus. So you've got like 6 different channels you can be on. And I mean, it's sad. The one thing I will say that I don't like about moving to the SEC was I have been hyped when that first was announced to get to listen to the dun 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 dun, dun
And you're not going to get
CBS
to hear
intro.
it.
We're not going to get to hear it. I grew up with that. Like I watched OU play on CBS with that college football before it became like the SEC mainstay. And when you heard that music, the you know what I'm talking about, right before it starts the drum. Oh man, I'm getting goosebumps just here. I love that intro. The best ever. That and the previous ESPN college football back, I guess between what 90 ESPN and ABC had a really good one between like 95 and 2005 that was just awesome. Maybe even to 2010, and then they kind of changed it up. So there is some sadness to it all, but you don't have to wake up at 6 a.m. to go to work now. and be up till 1 a.m. I mean, you're going to be up till 1 a.m., but at least you get to watch some college football now, Parker. That's what I'm going to like. Get to watch a little college football.
Yeah. And,
I've
I,
missed that.
well, and I think as reporters, right, two completely different perspectives here because as someone who covers the game, I actually like 11 a.m. kicks because it makes the entire day just logistically easier. Like
No,
11, yes,
you
11,
miss everything else. You're working the whole day.
yes, but the point is, from a work standpoint, you can have everything done in one day and then you have a whole Sunday and you don't have anything bleeding into your Sunday. But certainly,
When you have kids and they may have a game or two on Saturday, the night game's going to be so awesome for you. I promise you. Just wait.
if your
Just
kids
wait.
are playing on Saturdays in the state of Oklahoma, the league organizers have their heads
Ours
in the right
don't,
place.
but I'm just making a point. Yeah, ours don't do that.
But
They're
yeah, no,
Tuesday,
look,
Monday, Tuesday, Thursday.
yeah, but I understand the fact that if you're a fan and you're trying to tailgate and you're trying to enjoy some camaraderie and some beverages,
Get lubricated. Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
I didn't mean it in that aspect. But yeah.
inebriated, is that the word
No,
you were
I mean
going
you get
for?
lubricated. Like there's a term they call them getting lubricated of like drinking a whole bunch. But
If you're a fan, 11 a.m. kicks suck.
comments are gonna hate that. I can just
They
tell
are
you
the
what I can tell.
worst. If you're a fan, 11 a.m. kicks are the worst. And understandably so, fans have grown very, very tired of 11 a.m.
Mm.
kicks in Norman, America. And also, Brandon, the aspect of it that probably doesn't get talked about as much is it makes recruiting more difficult because guys play on Friday nights and they're not off the field until 10:30, and then they got to turn around and they got to be in Norman by 10 a.m. the next morning in order to throw down a quick meal, get out on the field, see all the sights before settling in for
We're-
the game day experience.
It's
That's
not easy.
difficult.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
difficult. If you're right down the road, if you live in Oklahoma City, or even if you're a Tulsa kid, it's easy enough. If you want to come up from DFW, or you want to come up from the Houston area, or you want to come down from Kansas City, even those places which you would consider to be reasonably close, even so, that's a very quick turnaround. Saturday morning, you're gonna get little sleep. You're gonna be groggy waking up, and then you got to drag yourself on down to Norman for a football game. And once you get settled, obviously the environment at Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium is going to make it worth it. But
mhm.
if you can avoid that predicament, you'd like to. And so, from a recruiting standpoint, life's going to get a whole lot easier for the Sooners in that department because they're not going to have to worry about visits going on the fritz because kids are trying to make too quick of a turnaround to be able to get from play. Like I remember Reggie Powers and his family, they flew from Ohio on an early morning flight to be in Norman for an 11 a.m. kick. They got like
Mm.
3 hours of sleep after he played one Friday night. You're doing the most at that point, and props to you. But again, if you can minimize the frequency of those situations, by all means, you would like to do so.
Yeah, the recruiting aspect I think is probably the biggest part outside of the fan aspect. And when Oklahoma saw that schedule, they had to be doing backflips because they're sitting there going, finally going to have some big home game visitors, like unofficial visitors. So I guess to make a bigger point, like you made a point about it, but like driving from DFW, kids do it all the time, right? Particularly the north side of the DFW. It's 2 hours, hour and a half, hour 45. It's not that big a deal for them. It's the south side of the DFW. It's Central Texas. It's those kids that have to drive from like rural areas if they
Yep.
want to fly in to the game, which means they'll have to wake up early, get to the airport at like 4, 5 o'clock in the morning just to catch a flight to get to Oklahoma City to get to Norman. And that's the difficult part. Like, and you gave a prime example was Reggie Powers. So, and I remember the Boganowskis doing that a couple of times too,
Yeah,
like
man.
literally hopping in their car like at 5 o'clock in the morning just to get to 11 a.m. kick. And that's those days are gone, at least for this year. So if you're Oklahoma, you're doing backflips and loving this.
And the one 11 a.m. road kickoff, there are two total on this schedule. One of them's at home, one of them's on the road. The one 11 a.m. road kickoff is at Ole Miss. So we're doing
That's
brunch in the Grove, Brandon.
that does suck. That one sucks. Pretty bad actually. I that was one I was hoping to be a afternoon game.
Well,
I
you're not a hash
honestly,
browns guy.
I mean, I prefer bacon and eggs and toast when I do hash browns. But McDonald's hash browns are good, but I haven't had that in God knows how long.
That's probably for the
So
best.
no doubt. Um, at least a year. But I just I don't know. I was trying to think of the away game that I would have preferred to be 11 a.m. and I mean, is there a good one? Maybe the Missouri one probably would have been the best one to do 11 a.m.
Yeah, and that'll be at 2:30.
Yeah. What were the night games? Let's go through that. Do we know? Because there's a lot of flex games.
There are a lot of flex games. So basically, the way this works out is there are a few games where you know the time and that time's not changing.
Mhm.
There are several where there is the opportunity for the game time to be changed. But even so, like I think a lot of people remarked about this. At least you know what the two options are way ahead of time. In the
Yeah.
Big 12, some days you were waiting for that 6 day window. You were waiting till Monday morning to
And there were like
find
so
out
many
when you were going to.
scenarios, right? Like if this team won and that team or that team lost and you won, then you're going to be the night game or the 11 a.m. game. There was like so many scenarios. I like this. There's two options. You're 2:30 or 3, 2:35 or 6 or 7. Like those are your options. Like
Let's run
I
this
love
down.
that.
Let's run this down one at a time. Temple, we've long known that's a 6 p.m. kick on a
Mm-hmm.
Friday night to start the year. Houston is at 6:45. Tulane is at 2:30. Those are your non-conference games. No Roosters in non-conference. Your very first SEC home game against Tennessee is either going to be a 2:30 kick or it's going to be in that 5 to 7 p.m. window. So
It's
that
going
has
to
the
be the 5 to
potential to be
7.
prime time. That has
Yeah.
the potential to be prime time. And I would think if
It's
both
night.
of those teams are undefeated heading into that September 21st matchup, that probably will be prime time just because it is OU's first SEC game
Mm-hmm.
and there will be a recognition of that nationally. September 28th at Auburn, 2:30 or 3:30. Obviously, we have
You
known.
better be thanking Jesus for that.
Obviously,
You
we
do
have known
not
for
want
a
to get up that
while.
night.
Well, not too terribly long, but a couple weeks now, that the Red River Shootout will be played at 2:30 this year.
I love that.
October 19th and 26th, South Carolina and at Ole Miss. Those are your two 11 a.m. and or noon kickoffs. Maine on November 2nd is at 1:30. November 9th, November 23rd, and November 30th, you are at Missouri, at home against Alabama, and at LSU. All of those could be played at either 2:30 or the 5 to 7 p.m. window.
You know dang well they're night games. You
I would
have a
say at least
feeling.
two of those three,
Yeah.
assuming the season hasn't gone off the rails
Yeah.
for one or both of those teams involved in the matchup. Yes,
I
at least two of the three will be night games.
what two of the three of those three are you hoping are night games? I can already tell you which ones I want. I want Alabama and I want LSU. I want Death Valley at night.
Death
I want
Valley,
to see it.
I feel like Death Valley at night is a necessity. I
Yes.
would hope the powers that be give us and give the Sooners an opportunity to experience Death Valley at night. It's going to be daunting, but it's going to be awesome. That right there
Yes.
is the quintessence of college football. That is everything that college football is, everything we love about college football summed up in one matchup, one venue. Yes, Death Valley at night needs to happen.
The other thing I'm looking forward to this year is to see how the progression of the fan and the home field advantage that Oklahoma goes through as they you know the Tennessee game is going to be ruckus, right? Like you
as
understand
it
that.
should be.
But I think it won't be at its precipice because it'll be okay. This is the first SEC game. Josh Heupel's coming back. It's going to be awesome. The Golden Child's back. It's going to be fun, but at the same time, I think when the fan base, the what do they allow? Like 15,000, right? Like is
Let me ask you this. On
what is the number of visitors they allow? Like what's the tickets they allow? Is it 50, is it 10, 15? What is it?
I don't know exactly,
Let
and
me
I
see. It's
think it may
more than the Big
vary.
12.
Um, but let me ask you on that note, talking about that OU Tennessee game. Yes, it's OU's first SEC game. I wonder, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this. Is there going to be a lot of discourse nationally about the game in the week leading up to? Like, are the networks and the national pundits going to play up the fact
Yes,
that, oh, Josh Heupel's coming back to Oklahoma as
absolutely.
Tennessee's head coach?
They're already doing it. They've already when they talked about it during the SEC schedule release, they said it. They were like, Josh Heupel's coming home. Like that was one of the main deals that they spoke about. I'm I'm interested to see what the other games are that week. I don't know off the top of my head. I remember reading it and it was like they were talking like potential college game day stops, right? And OU Tennessee was like way up high on that
Yeah.
list.
Well,
I would
I
bet it's
find it
in Oklahoma
interesting.
that week.
I find it interesting that at least right now, that doesn't seem to be a huge needle mover in Oklahoma. Like, yes, you're looking forward to the Tennessee game, but I feel like most fans, most if not all fans, are looking forward to it because it is the first SEC game more so than because Josh Heupel's coming back. I feel like
Mm,
the fact that Josh Heupel
I
is
think
coming
so.
back
Yeah,
isn't really registering right now locally in terms of the big storylines of 2024.
but that it's because it's going to the SEC has been such a big deal, and when that that's why it's kind of masking over it, right? Like people are talking about it, but everybody else is making a bigger deal. Like, look, Tennessee's coming to town, and it's actually going to be a conference game. Like the funny thing is OU and Tennessee have played in the last decade twice,
They
and
have.
so and OU was 2-0 in those, and I think that's the weird part about this is that everybody's talking about it being the first SEC game and it's a big deal and it's Tennessee. And yeah, you're right. There isn't a huge swell of people talking about Hypo coming back, but at the same time, I think it's known. I just think it's glossed over because the SEC logo is going to be on the opponent and your chest, right? Like you're both going to have it on for the very first time. And that's what's making it kind of, I guess, underappreciated the fact that, you know, the savior of OU's football program, not named Bob Stoops, is returning.
I
And I
wonder
think
also how much of it has to do with the fact. I wonder what percentage of the fan base sees and remembers Josh Heupel as the OC that Bob Stoops fired, rather than the quarterback that led them to the 2000 national
I
championship.
don't think many, man, because he wasn't really OC. What was the OC? 12, 13, 14, or just 13, 14?
I think it was 11 through 14. He was OC.
What year did Kevin Wilson leave?
I don't know, but I thought it was, and yes, it
Eh,
was 11 through 14 that
11
he
through
was
14. So it was only
co-offensive
3 years.
4 years, four
4 years,
seasons.
excuse me. Yeah. I did 4 minus 11 or 4 minus 1. But yeah, that's probably why, because it wasn't a long standing, like, it wasn't like Lincoln Riley when he was there as the OC and then eventually the head coach and he stayed the OC through a 7 year reign, right? And that's kind of more recency bias towards that.
Yeah.
So
I just I think at this point, and this maybe is it's sneaking up on people, for your generation and older, Brandon, that probably don't aren't necessarily super cognizant of this reality, because it feels like, not that long ago that Oklahoma was hoisting the trophy as the 2000 national champions. But, if you're my age, you never watched Josh Heupel in an OU
That's
uniform,
true.
at least not
Very true.
live. You did watch Josh, or you did witness Josh Heupel get fired by Bob Stoops in 2014. So I I wonder how much of it is due to the fact that there is a younger generation of Sooner fans that have very vivid memories of the Josh Heupel era as OC, but little to no memory of the Josh Heupel era as quarterback.
Eh, Very good point. And let me tell you something. Going back and watching those 99 through like 2005 offenses, they were really good, but they were not efficient the way they are today. Let me tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
Offense has progressed,
You think?
schematics have progressed. Yes. It was very like the early renditions of the spread compared to today, not even close. I tried watching it a couple of times. I'm sitting there going, this is like a jumble compared to what they do today. Like today is like so the spacing is so much better. The routes are ran so much better. Everything's more crisp. And it's because it was in its infancy then,
Yeah.
right? But it's crazy, crazy difference. And I thought Josh Heupel was freaking unbelievable. I was like, this offense is awesome. No, if there's those teams' offenses went up against defenses today, no, those defense would still shut down today's defense. I will say that. But the offenses against today's defense and how, and I think Venables would probably tell you the same thing, just because everything's so much more. Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Just more in depth, more of a variety, more. Um, oh, what's the word I'm looking for here, Parker? Where it's just there's a lot more to it as far as defense and what they do schematically. And so,
Diversity, perhaps.
yeah, probably, I guess that's not the word, but yeah, diversity. There's just a lot more diversity. So it's just, I don't know. Like, I've tried going back and watching those, love watching their defenses play because it's awesome.
Yeah.
But it's so different on offense. And those were some really considered at the time just amazing offenses. So I don't know. I'm a big fan of Josh Heupel. Big fan. I think he is one of the goats of all time at OU. I'm very interested to see how the fans react to this. I think he's
Yeah.
going to be embraced, and I think OU is going to do everything they can to make it a big welcome home with like a video montage and all that type of crap to throw Tennessee off as much as they can. I'm interested to see how much Heupel bites. I'm going to bet he doesn't, just because we know how competitive he is.
Yeah.
That and he
Um,
hates OU. He doesn't. He
uh,
doesn't hate OU anymore.
there was a time.
There was a time though.
There,
His
there was a,
family
there was
still
definitely a time.
dislikes OU very much. I will
There
say that.
was. Shall we pivot to recruiting?
Yeah.
Big official visits on tap this weekend, including but not limited to Elijah Melendez, the number
Huge.
2 inside linebacker in the country,
Hmm.
committed to Miami currently. Sooners are working to flip him. 2 of the top offensive tackles in the nation in 5-star Ty Haywood and 4-star Michael Fasusi.
Oh, he's five. They're both 5 star. You flipped it
Is
actually. It's 5 star Fasusi, 4 star Haywood, but both are 5 star composites across the other.
Oh, Fasusi is a 5-star, isn't he?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Haywood is too with us.
No,
Or
he's
no,
4 star.
wait, he's the
He's 4 star.
highest. Yeah, he's the
He's four.
highest ranked
He's the
4-star
highest
guy.
four
Okay, so
star.
I did flip it. 5-star Michael Fasusi, my apologies, and 4-star Ty Haywood. 2 of the
Hmm.
top 5 offensive tackles in the nation, both going to be on campus. Also, Brandon, you get Taylor Tatum 2.0 showing up in Floyd Bucard.
It
Took
took
you a
me a
second,
second.
didn't it?
I was like, whoa, okay. So, do we want to go there? Let's
Yeah,
go
let's
there.
just start there. So, for context,
Okay.
last year, Taylor Tatum, of course, the number one running back in the country, took an official visit to USC and had an official visit to Oklahoma set up the following week. He goes to USC, silent commits to USC. That silent commitment lasts all of 1 week. And obviously, we
Yes.
know how it ended. He canceled the Michigan OV. He committed to Oklahoma shortly thereafter,
Mhm.
signed with the Sooners, just enrolled last week. Uh, Floyd Boucard took an official visit to USC this past weekend, Brandon, and call it
An
what you will
overreaction was
semantically.
done.
Call it what you will,
Mhm.
but
That's what I was told.
the reality is there were expert predictions across the industry that flew in favor of USC for Floyd Boucard.
Yeah. No, I'm not
And
going to
now
say
this weekend, he will be in Norman, Oklahoma.
yes. I'm not going to say he's not going to sign with USC. But what I will say
You
is
want me to
people
say it?
that's I'm just I'm trying to be polite here, man. Um I will say that people around him and spoke with him right after and when all those picks started flying in, reached out to me and went, "Man, this is a complete overreaction." It was quoted as an industry overreaction to it. Now, could he have silenced to USC? Sure. But those of us that have watched Lincoln Riley's recruitments, those of us that have seen this before, know when those emojis go up, it's not always a guarantee. And
I
he'll
want
do
to
it with
ask this
silence.
question.
I don't understand why he still does it.
Well, and I want to ask this question, Brandon.
What's he batting? 40%?
Like, it legitimately, is there a worse coach in the country when it comes to holding on to silent commitments and even verbal public commitments than Lincoln Riley?
It's not good.
From the OU days to the USC days, man, how many decommitments, how many flips does that dude experience on an annual basis?
Because he
There will
allows
be
so many people to take visits. Like, oh, you're committing to us. Go take your visits and see if you still love us. Dude, Venables does it right. Clemson does it right. Bama, Georgia, all those guys do it right. You commit to them, you're shutting it down. You're not going anywhere else. If you do, they're going to go find somebody else and they're going to tell you to kick rocks. You can't you can't live that life, Parker. And that's
sheesh.
been his biggest downfall. He's a good coach. He's a very, very good recruiter. He just allows too much leeway.
His
Way too much
quarterback's
leeway.
taking OVs to Colorado and Indiana, man. Are we serious with
Too much
this?
leeway. Yeah.
His top edge commits taken 6 official visits, and none
And
of
the
them are
last
to
one's OU.
USC.
The
Not a
last one's
single
OU.
one
And
is to
OU is like
USC.
and OU is like the quiet team everybody talks about with Isaiah Gibson.
It's comical, man. But
It's weird.
so let's consider this. Cole Breeler will not be a Sooner. He is a tree. He is
He's not even
committed
coming
to
this weekend.
Stanford University.
Yeah.
He is not even bothering with his OU official. We said at the time, it remains true. The importance of the Floyd Boucard recruitment just got jacked up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not the only target on the board in that regard. The Sooners will also OV Makai Williams-Lee this weekend. They will OV Christian Evans next weekend. But
Mm-hmm.
Floyd Boucard, certainly the top guy at defensive line when it comes to dudes the Sooners would like to have in the class.
Yes. Boucard and Evans, I would say outside of obviously Trent Wilson, who's already committed to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
It goes Boucard and then Evans. And I spoke to a source last week specifically about that and was told Oklahoma feels like they are in the position now with where they are at defensive tackle that they can take an extra D lineman from the high school ranks and allow them the time to develop behind the guys that are there now because the defensive line is young and it's very, very talented. And when you have that type of opportunity, you, you can go grab that extra guy and then go grab one or two out of the portal and just keep reloading because you're going to be developing the guys coming up. And then you kind of bring in who you want to kind of, you know, top it off. And that's where Oklahoma's at. Think about when Bates and Chavis arrived originally. Think about the D line and what it looked like. Now look at it. Bates has been on a streak, 24 and 25. If he can somehow pull Bacard out of Miami, who's also not originally from, he's originally from Canada. So that makes a big difference there. He is not settled in. That's why you see him taking all these visits away from South Florida. The
Yeah.
only Florida team he's really looking at is Miami, and they are a problem.
Yeah, they
They
are.
are a problem.
Especially because he goes to Miami Central, which is a
Yeah.
feeder school for the U, as we've discussed.
Yes.
Um, I guess that brings us to Elijah Melendez. That's a natural transition. He's committed to Miami, has been for some time. Not really a super well kept secret that he's at the very least looking around. He may stick with
Mhm.
Miami, but he's looking around. He OV'd Auburn at the end of May. He OV'd Ole Miss last weekend. He's going to be in Norman this coming weekend. And Brandon, this is a guy that has been at the absolute top of the linebacker board for Oklahoma for a very long time. They
Yeah.
have been trying so hard to get Elijah Melendez on campus. And the feeling from the OU end was always, we get him on campus, we have a shot. I was told just the other day, talking to a very well placed source, Zach Alley has done an amazing job with this recruitment. And boy, what a feather in Zach Alley's cap. What a grand introduction that would be if the very first recruit that he successfully pursued on behalf of the Sooners happened to be the number 2 inside linebacker in the country. But we'll say this, you're going to want to hang with us at ouinsider.com for updates on Melendez's recruitment, both this weekend and in the weeks and months to come, because there is nobody more plugged into that process than our Southeast recruiting analyst, John Garcia, who does
Yeah.
an awesome job covering the state of Florida and Georgia.
Yeah. He's been phenomenal. He was the OG of saying, look, Oklahoma's a problem there for Miami. And that seems to be ringing true. And this weekend is going to be I was talking to two guys the other day specifically about Melendez, and they brought up, get him to campus, we'll see what happens type deal. But then I said, well, do you have confidence in this? Like, where do you guys sit? And they said it's been more of a, I want to word this right, not like directly, I'm going to paraphrase them. The reaching out hasn't been just OU to Melendez, it's been Melendez to OU as well. Like, there is some stock into that. And Jay Valai's done a good job of helping, obviously, Zach Alley there. They've built up a pretty decent relationship. Bates has been helping it, and obviously Venables. I mean, they have made Melendez feel like he is 100% wanted, and it's paying off. I will be shocked if Oklahoma's not one or two when it comes time. Like, I'm not saying he's going to commit, but like, I think they're going to be a top two team in this recruitment at the end of the day. I would
This
not be
is
shocked.
this is really like this is the first legit litmus test
Mm-hmm.
for Zach Alley. Because if you think about it, Brandon, the first 2 years of the Venables era, the Sooners were close but no cigar with nationally elite, nationally coveted linebacker prospects. Troy Bowles in the class of 2023, and then Sammy Brown in the class of 2024. Oklahoma was right there for quite a while for both of those
Mm-hmm.
guys. Didn't end up getting either one. Bowles went to Georgia. Sammy Brown went to Clemson. If you could coax Elijah Melendez into the class, man, that really shows that a page has turned. It really
Mm-hmm.
shows that the guys you were right there in the thick of it, but couldn't quite nail down in the past. Those types of recruitments have turned into recruitments that you win
Yeah.
instead of just races that you run diligently all the way up until the end.
Yeah. And I think the other thing you need to kind of think about there is Miami is notorious for NIL.
No doubt.
And is Melendez, is he using Ole Miss? Like, look where he's visited: Auburn, Ole Miss, Oklahoma. What are those three teams synonymous with? They pay in NIL.
So
Is
what you're
he,
saying is we got a
it
bad.
matters, is what I'm saying. And is he driving the price up with each and every visit? Seeing who is going to lay down the most green. So there's some twists and turns to this that we haven't seen yet. And I'm interested to see how it goes. Um, Michael Fasusi coming into town this weekend. I I guess I'll still be shocked if he doesn't end up at Texas, but as long as Babalola ends up at Stanford, Missouri's going to do all they can to grab one of those offensive tackles. And they're in the thick of it with Fasusi. So that rolls us down to Ty Haywood, Parker. And
Yeah.
Haywood feels like an Alabama Oklahoma battle with Tennessee, or no, excuse me, Texas A&M kind of lurking there to see what happens. And I am not naive to throw A&M out of this. I've said it. Everybody feels like it's OU Bama, but A&M's just lurking. Just lurking.
Yeah. And man, here's the thing about the Haywood recruitment. You got to take everything with a grain of salt because
Yeah,
one of the things that I know for certain is that, and I think if you pay attention to it, you've been able to pick up on this as well. He tells different people different things.
correct.
He's done a very, very good job of making sure that there is no consensus about where his recruitment sits. And
Yeah.
so there's going to be a layer of enigma that shrouds this one more so than Fasusi and Lamont Rogers, I think, all
Mm.
the way up until the end, just because Haywood has done a really, really good job of throwing people for a loop, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, but I think the good thing is that Oklahoma is going to get three. I mean, does Babalola show up on the 21st, you think?
I think he does. I think he will.
Okay. So they're going to get four of the top offensive tackles in the country on OVs. OU will land one of them. I'm going to predict that. They will get one. You're not getting two. Anybody that thinks they're going to get two,
Yeah, no, those
you're in a dream world.
that
They're
pipe
going to be
dream
too
died a long
expensive.
time ago.
Yeah, it's too expensive for everybody, anybody. Like
Yeah.
those guys are going to, they're going to garner a hefty amount of money. And so if Oklahoma can close with, let's say it's Lamont Rogers, and because that's what I kind of predict is Lamont Rogers, and I think Afalava are the two they close with. That's a heck of a draw, dude. Like if you can close with that, I think that's amazing, Parker. And everybody's gonna go, well, Lamont Rogers isn't ranked as high as Lamont Rogers is more athletic than all those dudes. He is raw, 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 raw. And if he can get coached up, that dude might end up being better than everybody
And
because he's an
there's
amazing basketball player
literally
too.
no reason to quibble between Haywood,
Yeah.
Fasusi, Babalola, and Rogers. Like you give Bill Bedenbaugh a top 100 national prospect, he's gonna turn that dude into a good football player, a really good football player,
We saw that
possibly a
in,
first round NFL draft pick.
we saw that in 23, right? Before that dude dipped out because somebody wanted to make him dip out. So,
Yes.
um,
Um, so there's that.
yeah,
And I think I said this last week. Babalola going to Stanford would be the one thing that could really, really throw a wrench into the calculus everywhere else because it has felt for a while as if those four all wind up going to, in no particular assignment, Missouri, OU, Texas, Texas A&M. Right?
yes,
That the problem is if Babalola goes to Stanford, it jacks up the price for the other three because supply and demand, right?
yep,
There's less supply now. There's going to be more demand. Somebody's going to get left out in the cold. I remain firm in my assertion that OU will get one of the four.
Yep.
It may come at
Who
a
do you
little bit of a
predict?
higher price point.
Who do you predict? I said Rogers. And if you asked me that 2 months ago, I wouldn't have said Rogers. You know that.
No, and I feel like my answers change like every 2 or 3 weeks.
Same, but
Right now,
right now
today,
it's
I'd
Rogers.
probably say Haywood. Like, that's where I'm
I
at.
can see that. I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. There's just something about Rogers. I don't. He has been and his people have been very open to Oklahoma, and there's a connection that people don't know behind the scenes a little bit with one of his former coaches, and being very very good friends with a former player that played for Beatonbow at Arizona, and they've had talks. So Beanbo has some people in his corner helping. Smart move.
Yeah,
Smart move.
that's what it's about.
Yep.
Got to have every little advantage when you're
And
going
and
down to the
Lamont
wire for a kid like that.
and Lamont Rogers will be there on the 18th. So the
Yes.
day that OU starts their second to last camp, boom, Lamont Rogers there
Yeah. And
at
we'll
their
talk
position.
about that more
Yep.
on the next podcast and maybe even next week. I'm sure we'll touch on it on the live stream, but they're going to be three midweek official visitors for Oklahoma:
Mm-hmm.
Lamont Rogers, and then linebackers Zadrius Rainey Sale and Marky Henachor. It's
Yep.
going to be real interesting to see who that last linebacker in the class is. Because if it's not Melendez, you're playing roulette at that point
Dude,
with
what do you think about
Henachor.
Henny Chore? What do you think about that?
I see the difficult thing with Henachor is he's cousins with Chinadu and Yegoro, the 4-star edge from the state
Mm-hmm.
of California. They both OV'd SMU this past week. Both really, really liked it. There's kind of a desire to play together, not necessarily one that's going to uh, alone determine where they go to school, but I
Right.
think that's incentive right now, in addition to the fact that SMU's NIL department is a competitive one, to say the least. And I loved Ihenachor's candor when I talked to him the other day, because he was like, yeah, look, NIL is a big part of the decision. I'm not going to act like it's not. I love that there's a kid like that who's 17 years old, but is capable of acting like an adult in that manner and can be
Yeah.
like, yes, okay, I like money is important in this decision, because of course it is.
Yeah.
Um, I I'm intrigued by what happens with Christian Jones when he gets to town on June 21st, because that's kind of been the one that OU's just kind of quietly been hanging in the periphery of that recruitment, haven't really been pushed, but it kind of seems like eh, there's not really anybody, save for Nebraska, that's been really pedal to the metal with Christian Jones, because I think there's been an assumption all along, oh, he's just going to be a Cornhusker. It's not really what the kid wants. And so if there's a viable alternative, that alternative could be Oklahoma, then maybe he winds up in the class. I just think
So white
Chris,
linebacker. I'm betting on him.
I
I'm
just think
kidding. I'm
Christian
kidding. I'm
Jones is a
kidding.
lot
I'm
more.
kidding.
I bet it's either Melendez or Christian Jones, because
I
I just
agree.
think OU relationally is at too much of a disadvantage right now with the Henachor and Zadrius Rainey Sale, because they just offered both of those guys last month. So that's still a very recent pursuit.
Oh, sorry, man. Man, we
Was
started
that a
this late.
yawn?
It kind of was, yeah. I was trying not to. Um, I camp's also going on this Thursday, and Jaden O'Neal, top 100, number 63 overall player in Rivals 2026 class rankings, will be on campus. He's a guy that has 5-star potential, and if I'm a betting man right now, I predict OU. Well, I already did. Um, so,
Yes, you did.
so I predict OU, and yeah, I also did with Coleman originally because Coleman tried to commit, but then OU was kind of working to get in really good with O'Neal at the time, and now they're like in the throes of it. And if you talk to people close to O'Neal, it's like OU is definitely the leader. And I had a strong conversation with the people that are running his recruitment and helping him take all of his visits. He will be in Oklahoma for 4 days. 4 days, dude. 12, 13, 14, 15. That is the only school he's visiting more than 2 days to.
It's a lot of days, and that's always a good sign right there.
That is a definitely good sign. Now, they are not going to make a decision supposedly until after they get done doing their tour, but they also know that their quarterback, so it's vital that they reserve a spot.
Yep.
We'll see where it goes, man. I think I don't think they allow anybody to go public until after Jonas Williams comes in though. Because I just think they want to see all three and then make a decision. But right now, if I'm a betting man, I'm betting on Jaden O'Neal. Just my gut. In 2027, it feels kind of like they already have a player in mind, right? With 27 QBs, does it not?
There's certainly a guy in mind, and I think it's pretty obvious who that is. Their first offer at the position,
Yeah.
Trey Taylor, out of Mundelein, Illinois. I doubt he's the only offer. I
No,
think, yeah, he's so far ahead of the curve
and it felt
from a
very, very. I don't know. I talked to his dad. You talked to him, and
yeah.
I talked to him too. But you actually did the interview, and it just felt like, and you kind of reported that, right? Like it just felt like they were in love with Oklahoma.
I don't know whether I would say it felt like he was in love with Oklahoma. There's definitely a strong interest there, and OU is well advised to enter the race, or like this is the earliest offer that Oklahoma's made to a quarterback in a long, long time.
Mhm.
He has not he's not yet begun his sophomore year, and he's already got an offer from the University of Oklahoma. Kind of needed to happen though, because he had 16 offers already. There are going to be more flying in. If you didn't get in on this kid pretty early, you were going to miss the boat. And so,
Yeah.
as soon as they're going to try, man, he's a guy that's got the size, 6'2", got the arm talent, really, really advanced mechanically for his age. And just from a cognitive standpoint, he's highly mature, and it comes across in
Hmm.
conversation. Like you can tell, like he's got elite quarterback makeup. It's not
Yes.
hard to spot. Um,
He's
so
slender
I
though.
he'll need to bulk up. He's
Yeah.
a freshman. He will. Uh, it'll be a fight for that kid's services with how many big time schools have either already offered him or are beginning to develop strong relationships there and have
Yep.
been for a while. But at least we're kind of starting to get a sense of what kind of quarterback Seth Luttrell likes.
Very much so. I think the other thing we need to talk about, and we'll discuss more in the camps. Obviously, following the camp on Thursday, Parker and I will get on here and we'll do a camp breakdown for you guys. But softball transfers, you lost Lilio, Hodge, and what
S.J.
was the other?
Karen.
And SJ, yeah.
This,
And
folks, is where I would direct your attention to the Oklahoma Drill podcast, which is
correct.
going to drop later in the week, because both Jesse Crittenden and Brian Clinton are well sourced in the softball department, much more so than myself or Brandon. And
Correct.
so you need the softball scoop. You're going to want to listen to what those guys have to say.
Yep.
There have been some interesting rumblings to this point. They're not really anything more than that right now, but there are
Well,
rumblings
it
to
kind
be
of feels
certain.
like at least one player that's in the portal that Oklahoma's probably gonna push for, right? Wyckoff, right? From Texas Tech,
You would
center
you would think
outfielder.
so,
Yeah.
but again, Jesse Crittenden and Brian Clinton, those are the guys to follow and listen to for
Fair
softball
enough.
scoopage.
Yeah, very much so. They know their stuff. I guess that's our little teaser there. But yeah, we're gonna talk about the camps. We're gonna talk about a bunch of stuff. We got a lot of information over there on OU Insider VIP. Um, softball thread is just blowing up. Basketball thread blowing up. Parker and I have dropped notes on recruiting as far as OU goes. A big weekend headed up, big 2 weekends ahead, and then Oklahoma will take a sabbatical a little bit, and then they will go to the SEC Media Days in Dallas, and we will be down there to cover that as well. And then fall camp rolls around right after the party in the palace and the dadgum, what's it called?
Sooners under the
Sooners
stars.
Sooners Under the Stars with the young group. It's kind of a camp slash cookout that they're going to do at the end of July. So if you want to go to OU Insider VIP, $9.95, get you a month, try us out, see if you like it, see the other thousands and thousands and thousands of OU fans that are on there with us, and or $99.95 gets you a whole year. It's worth it. So go over there, try us out, ask us questions. I'm doing a chat right now. Jesse's got his mailbag going up. Parker and I are also dropping notes. Like it's a fun time to be on there. Lots of information flowing with softball, basketball, baseball, all of that. All that's on there right now as well. So go to OU Insider VIP, sign up with us today, or go right here in this YouTube channel, sign up if you want to be on top of the latest videos that is going to cover all things OU athletics and recruiting right here on the OU Insider YouTube channel. I think, Parker, that's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast. My name is Brandon Drum. I'm here with Parker Thune. You guys have a blessed day.